Surprise, surprise. I bet you didn't know I was going to be here today. Exactly. I said yesterday that it was the last episode before I moved to Germany, but I know that I promised you a surprise episode. So I'm here to cover that right now. I wanted to anticipate. I've been working with this subject for quite a while, so I wanted to bring this up to everybody's attention. Before I go any further, I am trying to improve and get rid of certain bad habits that I acquire while doing the podcast. One of them is something that is very annoying, that I know it's annoying. It annoys me, especially if I have to stop and listen to some parts of the podcast for technical purposes. It annoys me when I do this thing. It's very common. A lot of people do it. Actually, Dave Meltzer is one of the people that has that issue, and he never really got rid of it, despite, I don't know how long he works in podcasting and radio. Anyway, doesn't matter. But I'm trying to improve that. It's not going to go away immediately, of course. It's going to take a while. However, today we've got something very interesting and very important, and something that I don't often bring up because, to be honest, for quite a while I stopped actually liking the sport. I've been bored with the sport for very long, for quite a number of years, and for many, many reasons. As you all know, I grew up in Brazil, and of course the number one sport over there is soccer. And this is what I wanted to cover today. Let's talk about it. It's very controversial. Let's talk about the European Super League. Yes, I know. Believe me, I know. I've got a lot of things to say about this. Trust me. If ever the name "My Voice is a Weapon" was appropriate, my friend, you're in for a treat. Because I'm gonna come off as the biggest asshole on planet Earth. I'm gonna come off as the biggest mark in soccer history, okay? But I don't care, because I have the right to voice my opinion, and I bet a number of you is waiting to hear it. So, here we go. Soccer. The European Super League. This is some sort of project that started, they initiated this idea early 2019, but it only really became public in January this year, 2021. And I guess, shut up Siri, don't need you now. And I guess many reasons. One of them, to take profit of the fact that the fans aren't being able to go watch the matches, is one big part of why they decided to bring this up now. Let me see here. Let's start from the beginning. This is some sort of organization between big companies of sports in the sports market. Don't ask me what companies they are, but they decided to come up with this idea for a competition to challenge the UEFA and the national federations from different countries in Europe, to come up with this suggestion of a competition that actually, the idea for the competition has, there are some parts of it that are actually good, okay? I'm not going to dismiss the fact that the project and the idea is actually good. Just had Do you want to allow this app to make change? No, not now. Okay, forget about it. Just got interrupted there by a warning. Unable to join. Yeah, okay. Don't care. Sorry. Got interrupted there for a second. What was I saying? Okay, let me backtrack here a little bit because I forgot what I was saying. So, this whole... Okay, I know where I was saying. This company or companies, because I don't know if it's a number of them or just one company that came up with the idea to make this competition between European clubs to challenge the UEFA Champions League and the Europa League and all of that, those competitions that they do over there, or over here, because I'm actually in Europe. But there's some issues with this. First, we are starting to see the level of corruption inside of many federations in soccer in general. Back in Brazil, the Brazilians know that the football federations over there, the soccer federations, are full of shit all over the place. Even the clubs, okay, they're completely corrupted. And it's not just one or two. There's a bunch of stories. For those that know about Brazilian soccer and club Brazilian football history, you all know what happened to Cruzeiro. You all know what happened to Internacional a couple of years back. They got relegated. Cruzeiro, especially before they got relegated, a bunch of corruption stories, a bunch of shit that went on that I'm not going to get into here, but I'm trying to illustrate to you how these clubs operate, right? And the thing is, European clubs are also corrupted. We all know the history of Juventus in Italy. There's a whole mafia thing over there. But the difference is, even if they're corrupt here in Europe, they seem to be a lot more organized. And even if there's corruption, certain things work. And of course, you have favors and stuff like that, and there is corruption, but in a different way. In Brazil, it's chaos. Okay? Nobody knows how to run a soccer club. Nobody knows how to run a federation properly. Everybody's all-out war against each other. Okay, we all know soccer supporters in Brazil can become very violent. They can go completely insane, off the board. Jesus, I need to stop with this thing. It's getting in my nerves. And that's something else I need to get rid of. Remind me. So, or maybe I need to remind myself. Anyway, they came up with this idea to actually challenge that because they want to clean up the mess. And the intention seemed to be good, but there's an issue with the way they want to perpetrate the competition. Because for some reason, they have some sort of interest in trying to convince all the clubs that they should be there. And the one thing that they did, and that was a huge mistake because it pissed a lot of people off. One of them, me, please, teacher. Yeah, it pissed me off because I think it's an insult to soccer in general, to soccer fans all around, to the players, to everybody that is actually involved with the sport. It's an insult to everyone across the board. And I'm going to explain why. What they want to do is, the way they want to create publicity so that certain clubs would actually accept getting in the competition was convince certain clubs that are very powerful, they have already money, they already have power, they already, they're sitting comfortably at the top. And the fact is, certain clubs in Europe, they don't actually need the fans. They don't, because the money from the fans, it's not the money that they generate. It's not the big money. The big money comes from sponsors and, deals with the players and all of that stuff, right? Which, of course, there's a bunch of corruption behind that as well. Okay? All of this Nike, and not going to go into that because that's a different story for another day. I will do a podcast on that because I think it's important. But oh boy. So they came to these clubs like Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester United, Liverpool, all the big clubs. And I think they created this club of 12, right? The 12 big clubs of Europe, trying to convince them that they will have the privilege of playing every season and never be relegated. Now that's a ballsy thing to do because you're pissing on the fans, right? So those clubs are already privileged. Like they need that. Like those are the clubs that need that. Why don't you offer that kind of deal for the clubs that actually need it? That will actually get good investments by being there, compete, get better. But no, you offer that to the ones that don't need that at all. And that's what pissed off even the fans from those clubs. Do you know why? Do you know why it pissed them off? Because you're telling them that when somebody's in competition and one of those clubs is not doing well, even if they're in the last place, they're not going to get relegated. Then why the fuck are they playing in the first place? So what? So they're only playing so that they can get more money, more titles, more prestige. Why? They don't need it. They're not the ones that need that. Smaller clubs need that. You should bring that up to the clubs that actually would do anything to actually, okay, all right? And still it's a bad idea. Because it completely diminishes the level of competition. It makes for the idea that it's a competition only for an elite number of people, which is completely bullshit. It's almost, I'm gonna go on a limb here and say that this is almost a racist attitude to have. It's a racist thing to do. And I know it doesn't relate to race because we're talking about entities and not people. But if, of course, entities have people inside of them. And it's racist because you're completely separating yourself from the ones that actually fight to become better. And they struggle. Because these are the clubs that don't need the public for generating money because they have the sponsors, they have everything. But you go to clubs like, I don't know, let me see if I have an example here. Let's say Sampdoria in Italy, okay? A club like that. Where do you think the money comes from? Where do you think they generate the money? Those are the clubs that struggled the most during this pandemic because they weren't able to generate revenue because the fans weren't there. The fans weren't allowed to go watch the matches. They weren't allowed to go to the stadiums, to the arenas, to actually watch the matches. That creates a big issue, a huge issue, financial issue for those clubs. And now they're in terrible positions. And this is not something that is happening just in Brazil or no, it's happening everywhere. Okay? Those clubs survive by having their fans there. Their fans put their hard-earned money to watch those clubs. And yeah, they don't always see those clubs succeed, but it's nice to be able to go watch one match where they actually win in a heroic fashion. Like, for example, if they start losing 2-0 and at the end of the match they actually won 3-2. Because those are the best matches to watch, because it shows that the heart of the players, how much they fight for it. And this concept of creating a competition to get the privileged to the already powerful makes no sense whatsoever. It's pure garbage. And it's more corruption as well. So you came up with this to confront federations for being corrupt, and yet you're corrupting the whole conceptualization of the competition, because it makes no sense. It's not a competition anymore. You only have a number of clubs winning all the time. That's not fun for anybody. Why do you think soccer is in such array lately? I'm going to tell you why. Personally, this is something that I think, okay, it's my personal opinion. The talent of players is not the same. The players we've got now, you can clearly see the two best in the world for ages have been Messi, who is at the top and it's unreachable. Okay, nobody touches him. Then a bunch of degrees, if you want, down comes Cristiano and a number of Neymar, I don't know, Ibrahimovic, whoever, right? All of those names that I listed and more. But to be completely honest, there's many reasons why, but the talent of the pure talent of the players today is not the same as it was. And this started, the lack of talent started to go away once certain players retired. Ronaldinho Gaúcho, Ronaldo Fenômeno, Zidane, Beckham. I could name a bunch of others. Okay, Edgar Davids, I don't know, Clarence Seedorf. You know, there's a bunch of extremely good, talented players. And at the time, Rivaldo, you know, there were a bunch of names that I could come up here and tell you. And at the time, you didn't have just one best player in the world. The competition was rough. One year you had Figo being the best in the world. The following year, Zidane was the best. The following year, somebody else. And year after year, the competition, yeah, you had a few players that won it more, a few more times, but it wasn't like it was only two people winning and winning and winning, like Messi and Cristiano, because everybody else is so much worse. So the competition is obviously getting poorer and poorer. One of the reasons for this is the fact that clubs started, and not just clubs, I mean everybody involved in soccer in general, they started to care more about the the tactical game, the stats, right? Like they say in America, the statistics. They care more about numbers, and they start to stop caring about the beautiful game, how the game is played, and even you can see that certain players stop doing certain things because they're not allowed to do that anymore. They don't have freedom to sometimes be a little bit selfish with the ball and try to do an individual play, because they have this idea now that you have to be perfectly and obey whatever the manager says or the coach, because this manager thing is mostly here in Europe. Everywhere else you have a head coach. There is no manager. The manager is not involved in the pitch, in what goes on and with the players, and managers are just managers. They're upper level. They're in the office, right? They're not there. That's the difference between Europe, South America, and everybody else, okay? Because in South America, this is starting to happen now. There are a few managers that are actually involved with what goes on the pitch, and they're also the head coach and manager at the same time, and blah, blah, blah. But this is starting now. I'm talking about now, 2017, okay? It's starting to happen now. It doesn't happen like that over there. It's not the norm. Shit, I need to get rid of this. I hate it. Anyway. What else? Yeah, so the whole process here is really, they need to change the whole concept of this idea that they have to. I think their intentions were good. They were actually trying to allure those big clubs because they know that those are the clubs that are going to make them money. But I think they did it the wrong way. They approached the whole thing completely the wrong way. And what else? Okay, so another issue is, for example, there are no German clubs involved in this because the Bundesliga immediately, when they got this offer, they said, you know what? No, thank you. We don't like this. We don't want to be a part of it. And they did it right. And I think the Bundesliga is one of those that actually are less corrupt. I don't know to what extent, but at least they do things the right way. They seem to be more transparent when it comes to the information that they give to their fans in Germany. So, but I don't know, maybe they're full of shit as well. I'm sure there are many instances where they're as corrupt as everybody else. But in Germany, things are a little different. Now, you have the Premier League where most clubs did accept it. And they accepted it because for them it is interesting. The idea of having a competition where they earn money and they don't have to suffer consequences for relegation. Well, even if I don't win the championship, I make money nonetheless, and I make more money than the teams that are going to be fighting to not be relegated. So even if I play as shitty as it is, because I'm more concerned with more important competitions, hey, those little clubs will look at me and say, this bastard is playing like shit. They're in last place. They're not going to get relegated, and they're going to make more money than me. And that's completely bullshit, right? So, Chelsea, Manchester City, and United, both Manchester teams. Who else? Arsenal, Liverpool, all those big clubs in England. I think I forgot one. I'm sorry. Tottenham. There you go. Tottenham. All those clubs, they agreed to it, and I'm really thinking, why on earth would any of those clubs agree to be part of this? And then I realized, well, I investigated a little bit, and one of the reasons is English clubs, the Premier League clubs, are in heat with European federations, club federations across Europe, and most especially, they're in heat with the UEFA Federation, right? So that's why they agreed to this, because I think they're actually just saying yes to make a challenge to the upper powers of those federations. Now, you also have Italy and Spain, right? Clubs like Real Madrid and Barcelona, and Atletico de Madrid in Spain. And you have AC Milan, Inter Milan, and Juventus in Italy. And that's where things start to get a little more obscure, because those are the clubs that, well, actually Real Madrid also has heat with some federations. They actually have heat with the Spanish Federation right now for a number of reasons. I'm not going to cover that here right now, but yeah, they're there. And we can see that there's a bunch of interests that certain club owners and or the presidents from those clubs are actually, just thinking about the interest for themselves. They're not concerned with the clubs at all. Believe me, they don't care about fans, or they don't give a shit. They give a shit about money. Okay? They want the green ones. They want, you know what they want. They want money. That's all they care about. But the biggest backlash is with the fans. Fans are outraged with this whole set of circumstances. Mostly they're angry because they haven't been able to go watch the matches. And at this stage of the pandemic, everybody's thinking that they should be able. If you don't have the illness, why would you not be able to go watch a match? Right? And the numbers are going down. Pandemic is starting to go away. We're seeing the progress of the vaccines. We're still with a lot of shit to fix in that regard, nonetheless, but things are getting better. The prospect is getting better. It's positive. In most countries, a few exceptions, Brazil is one of them, right? But for all the wrong reasons, because not so much for mortality rates or anything like that, but for the way that authorities are dealing with this shit right now. So this is crazy that this is breaking out, and everybody's at war now. And it became, that's the problem, is the clubs got taken over by politicians. They're not club owners anymore, or presidents. That's the problem. That's the problem. We have presidents inside those clubs as well. Now, why would you need presidents in a club? Why? I ask you, why? What does it do? It becomes, the guy transforms everything into politic. right? So everything that surrounds him becomes about money and some interest and how to win elections. Why would you need elections in a soccer club? I understand we need elections for democracy and for other instances, but I don't get why soccer clubs need this type of thing. If you look at other sports that are successful and franchises and clubs are successful without the need of having elections for a president or for somebody in charge, they don't do that in the NBA. There's no such thing, right? NBA have franchises, those franchises have owners, and it works. It works. It's like a company. And yes, they have their own political issues there, but it's different. For the most part, the competition works. In this case right now, how soccer is going, the fans are outraged because of how it became so political, it became so commercialized, and it's not about soccer anymore. It's about money. It's about the name of the players linked to the name of the clubs, and it becomes a bunch of power struggles between big clubs, smaller clubs. You know, what is this? This is supposed to be a sport. It's supposed to be competition. We don't need this political bullshit in sport. Now, there's other sports that have this same issue. They became too political. It's damaging the beauty of the sport. And that's another problem. It's not just the quality of the players that went down, because the quality of the players now is not as good as it once was, at least in my opinion. And I'm sorry. I saw a bunch of extremely talented players. Back in the 90s, the competition between South America and Europe was fuming. It was beautiful to watch, because European clubs wanted players from South America, and it wasn't as easy to get them as it is now. It wasn't, you know, because players were happy to play in Brazil and Argentina. Now it's not the case anymore. But now any European club goes after a young kid that is 16, offer them peanuts, and they think it's big money just because it's signed with a different currency. And that's the problem. They get impressed because it's euro or dollar. And it makes them feel like, oh, that's big money. Dude, when you get to meet the players that have been in Europe for a while, then you'll see what big money is. Okay? What they're paying you is peanuts. It's nothing. So take your time to grow inside of your club. Take your time. And then you can decide if you want to go play in Europe or not. Because I think you should have a certain level of self-respect to actually think if you are in a sport because you love it, or if you're in the sport because you want money. Because there's plenty of players like that. And me as a Brazilian, I can tell you a number of players in the club that I like, my club, okay, that they certainly give you that impression that they're just that for the money. They're just there because of the money. They're not there because anything else. So that's what I wanted to bring to you. And I'm going to try to bring you part 2 of this subject, because it is very important and there's a lot more to uncover about this. But for now, I have to... My brother just came up. I will yeah, I will leave it here for now. I will try to come back tomorrow or maybe the day after. And yeah, I'll try to finish this interesting subject before I go to Germany, because once I get to Germany, I don't know if I will be able to do the podcast, at least at the beginning. But so it's going to take a while for me to come back. But I will try before I leave to come back and continue about this subject. So thank you very much. And as you know, I will see you down the road. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye.